Hello everyone, B.O.B. here, and welcome back for another Minecraft tutorial. And today we have ourselves a 3x5 triangular piston door, and I know that is oddly specific. I don't know, I just thought the idea of a triangular door was pretty cool. It was inspired by the cauldron doors of Horizon Zero Dawn. And then also just the fact that they kind of, well, for these doors in particular, they all kind of open up flush with the floor. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know, but ordinarily I would talk about how cheap and easy the build is. It's not that cheap and easy. I mean, I guess it's not too bad. But I'm going to walk you through it. And the materials required for this build are going to be a lever for just a temporary power source. Obviously, once you get things built in, you're going to want to move this because it's going to be about 8 blocks beneath the surface. But for now, just so we can control our door, we're going to use a lever. We will also need 5 redstone torches, 11 redstone repeaters, 18 observers, 9 sticky pistons, 5 slime blocks, and 4 honey blocks. Or you could do the reverse. You could do 5 honey and 4 slime. But the door itself needs to be made of these blocks, and you have to alternate between them. Also, we will need 23 obsidian. Now, only 2 of those absolutely need to be obsidian. The other 21 could be a glazed terracotta or a leaf block, even jack-o'-lanterns, but basically anything that doesn't stick to the slime or honey blocks. But for building blocks, you're going to need about 32 solid blocks altogether, and then 2 glass blocks. Now, you don't have to alternate between types of blocks. I'm only doing this to differentiate the circuits. I'm going to do the main circuit in smooth stone. That's the one for the triple piston extender, and then the circuits for the double piston extender is going to be made out of iron blocks. And finally, the single pistons the circuits for them, well, it's just redstone basically. That's going to be placed on polished andesite. But yeah, there are going to be 2 pieces of glass that we're going to work into the double piston extenders. But that's it. I guess it's not terribly expensive, mainly just those observers, but it can be a little tricky as far as timing goes. And the area required for the build is going to be a 7x12 space, and like I said before, it's going to be about 8 blocks beneath the surface to get all the way to the bottom. Now, you don't have to dig all that out, the entire area. If you look at the redstone here, it all fits within about 5 blocks, but it is 11 blocks long. But you know, most of it's kind of right in the center. I only say 7 blocks wide because of, well, the door frame. Basically, you'll need space for that. Okay, to get started, we're going to come right to the very center of our 7x12 block area, and we're going to come 1 block in from our border here, and we're going to lay down a line of 10 blocks. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we are going to lay out some redstone on this. We're going to start with a torch on the very end. Now, this block on the very end is going to be how you power your door. You know, eventually you'd either have a redstone repeater leading into that or a torch underneath. But for now, like I said, we're going to use the lever to control our power. So, I want to put a dash of dust, a repeater, a block. We're going to have that block have a torch on the opposing side of that block. That's going to be feeding into another repeater, which is going to feed into another block, which is going to feed into another repeater, feeding into another block, and then 2 more repeaters, and these 2 on the end here are both going to be set to 4 ticks. So go ahead and place them down and click them each 3 times. Now, as you can see, we got a redstone signal going through there. We don't want that, so we're going to go ahead and turn off the circuit, which, I mean, it would be turning on your lever, but the circuit itself turns off. But now we're going to put in our pistons for our triple piston extender. We're going to come right on top of this block here, the one sticking up towards the back of the circuit, and just go ahead and stack jump 3 sticky pistons in place. You could go ahead and put in the slime blocks on top if you want now as well. It doesn't matter, you can put them in later. But from this point, we need some observers. So we're going to go ahead and look at this very bottom piston. We're going to place an observer right there up against it, and then another one up against the back of that, an observer on top of that looking down on that last one we placed, and then another one coming back into this second piston. So as you can see, it kind of forms a little bit of a loop there. Then we'll go ahead and just place a solid block on top of that last observer we just placed. We're going to come back to our redstone torch, and we want to build a little redstone ladder here. It's going to include all 5 of our torches. So we already have one in place. We're going to place a block on top of that one we already have, and then place another torch on the opposing side. Now as you can see, that torch is on. That's perfectly fine. They're going to alternate every time you place one down. So this one will be turned off. And then we need one more, so we're going to place one more block. Another torch on that. We're going to just place a block on top of that, but we don't need another torch after that. But what we do need is a solid block right up against this observer here. So as you can see, it should be right on the corner of this block, and coming from that block we're actually going to have 2 repeaters. We're going to have one right here and one right here. Now set one of these repeaters to 4 ticks and set the other one to 2 ticks, so you got a total of 6 tick delay. I guess you could do 3 and 3 if you wanted. I don't know. I did 4 and 2. 4 and 2 is probably safe because I mean that seems to be working for me. But now we need just a couple more solid blocks here, and you want to place those solid blocks basically right on top of those 2 repeaters. So you'll have to crouch place them basically, but you go ahead and crouch and place those 2 blocks in place. Then you want 2 more repeaters on top of those blocks. These ones don't need any timing adjustment, just leave them as is. However, you do want this last one feeding into a block of obsidian. Now, that's one of the obsidian that can be swapped out for something else. It doesn't have to be obsidian. Could be glazed terracotta. Just needs to be a solid block that's not going to stick to the slime blocks. Now finally we can place one more block on top of this obsidian, and that's not really part of the redstone. That's actually going to be your door frame. So whatever block you want to have visible there, that's what you're going to want to place on top of that obsidian. And bear in mind, like I said, it's got to be something that doesn't stick to the slime blocks. So yeah, obsidian, crying obsidian, glazed terracotta. And that's actually the front part of our circuit all done. Of course, there is a back part to this circuit, so we're going to go ahead and put that in place, starting with an observer. Now we want that observer facing directly down at this repeater right here, so it's going to be kind of hard to place. I mean, in survival obviously you'd have to stack jump up and crouch anyways. I'm going to do that, but now you want one observer facing that observer, feeding directly into this sticky piston on the bottom here. So we're going to go ahead and place that in. Then we want another one facing out the back of the circuit like that. We need 2 more observers facing down onto that one. One more observer facing into the one that you just placed. So you got this little shape right here. As you can see, it's coming up around. We need a solid block right here next to that middle sticky piston with a repeater on top of that. Set that to 4 ticks. Now up here we need another obsidian block, or that could be glazed terracotta as well. But then we need to bring a redstone line from this redstone dot here over to that block, just like so. And now we can put in the other side of our door frame, and that's actually the triple piston extender complete. If we go ahead and throw our lever, it should extend all the way, and then when we turn it off, there's a full retraction. So now it's actually really easy to put in the double piston extenders next to that. Okay, double piston extenders. Now just for laying in our solid blocks for our redstone, like I said, I'm going to switch to iron blocks, and that's just going to kind of separate the circuit so we know what's going to what. But I mean, a good first step in putting these in is always just getting the pistons in place. So you want one right next to your top piston and your triple piston extender, and then another one right on top of that. We'll go ahead and do that same thing on both sides. So right next to the triple piston, I'll make sure they're facing up. But then another one on top of that. We're going to need our honey blocks, so we can place those honey blocks right on top of those sticky pistons. That sound, I'm not sure I'll ever get used to that. Anyway, now we're just going to need some solid blocks to lay some redstone on. We're going to come right next to this top torch, and then make it so we can run a redstone line off of that to the side. So we'll place a block right there beside that, and then run 2 more right up beside those 2 repeaters. We're going to come down a block and place one on the side of that observer right here. Now that block that's sitting down low, we want a repeater in there, and we want that set to 3 ticks. So go ahead and click it twice. Oh, can't be crouched to do that part. Then you want to do the same thing on the opposite side here. So we're going to place in our solid blocks to run redstone on. We want 3 of those there. 1 down lower so we can place a repeater on. Repeater set to 3 ticks, so go ahead and click that thing twice. Now we need glass right above those repeaters on both sides. So we'll go ahead and put that in. Then we just need to run redstone dust right up that line of blocks you just placed all the way up onto the glass. Do that, of course, on both sides. Now that's the front part of those double piston extenders already done. Now we just need to do the back half. It basically covers the retraction, and we're going to do a loop just like we did in the triple piston extenders. We're going to place an observer facing the back side of these sticky pistons on the bottom. Coming out there, you want 2 of them in a row, so one's facing right into the back of the other. Then you want another one facing directly downwards on top of that, and then another one facing into that observer, feeding right back into your piston. Make that same loop on both sides of this. So 2 here, 1 facing down, then 1 feeding right back into that sticky piston on top. Now that should be the circuits for our double piston extenders already in place, and we can actually go ahead and test that. So yep, as you can see, they went up 2 blocks. Let's make sure our retraction works, and everything drops to where it needs to be. Now all we got to do is put in the single pistons, and that should be easy peasy. This is where our obsidian is going to come into place. And you're going to want to place that obsidian right on the side of your top sticky piston in your double piston extenders. And of course, you're going to want to do that on both sides. Now, those are the 2 blocks that absolutely need to be obsidian. They could be crying obsidian, but basically it needs to be a block that can't be pushed by a piston, so that way the door doesn't break when it closes. It's a failsafe. But now we can go ahead and place in some sticky pistons right on top of those obsidian blocks facing upwards, with our slime blocks on top of those. Now, like I said, you could switch the alternation, like if you wanted honey blocks in the middle, and then on the outside, of course, you'd put them in accordingly how you would like them. But running the redstone to these is super simple. We're just going to place in a solid block right next to that, and another one right next to that obsidian, and then just a dash of redstone dust on both of those, and that is complete. That is the whole door complete. And of course, to build in your door frame, you use the rest of your obsidian or glazed terracotta. You could just kind of place it in all around your pistons. It's kind of easy. Just frame out your door exactly as it stands while the door is closed. So that's exactly what I did in my display model. And then you could use stairs or whatever to decorate that on the outside. Well, I can give you a closer look at my display model here. As you can see, I used a button, and I don't ever recommend using a pressure plate. Well, I mean, you could use it, but you have to stand on it for a little while. It requires a little bit of a pulse, or else the door is going to kind of bug out. But yeah, you want at least a few seconds of pulse, and actually you have to extend the pulse anyways to get through the door. So what I did here in this is that button is feeding into this redstone dust, which is feeding into this torch, which is feeding into this redstone dust, which is feeding into this torch, and then that feeds into a pulse extender, and that is these 6 comparators all feeding into a loop. And as you can see, that loop is connected to our redstone dust, which powers the entire door. So I also have another line coming from the back, so that way the door can be controlled from both sides. I didn't include any of these materials. I mean, I didn't really want to do a tutorial on this part. Obviously, however you plan on building in your door is going to determine how you run the redstone line. If you're going to use a lever, or maybe you want to use a T flip-flop, or if you wanted to use a button, you could kind of mimic what I did here. But yeah, no, that's the door complete, and you know, as you can see, it works very reliably. Not the easiest build, I'll admit, and it's definitely not the cheapest with 18 observers and a single door. But I mean, it's cool. I mean, do you know a lot of other people that got triangular shaped doors? And so, my friends, that completes today's tutorial. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button. And if you're interested in seeing more from me, consider subscribing as well. I would like to thank each and every one of you for watching and wish you all a wonderful day.